Hi everyone, welcome back to my studio. This is Gary Tucker and Advancing with Watercolor. This week I have a little treat for you. We're going to be practicing cars and buses and motorcycles and all sorts of things that you will find in an urban environment. The context is Kenmore Square, where we see a giant billboard of the Citgo company, which is now Boston Landmark. And against that, we see traffic on a rainy day. Hi everyone, I'm Gary Tucker and welcome back to my studio. I'm working on the drawing for Rainy Day Kenmore Square. If you like the content on my channel, I hope you'll subscribe and hit the bell for notification. That way you'll get content delivered to your mailbox. Well, back to the drawing. What you see me working on are the cars and the placement of some of the signage, the buildings, the buses, a lot of stuff that you see in the photograph. I'm placing these things and preparing to do a painting of a rainy day in Kenmore Square. I'm going to be working on this from the top down, using a series of grays to get started. Nothing in the sky, just white paper. The purpose is to evoke a really rainy or heavy, misty day in this urban environment. There are some iconic structures that I want to show clearly. One of them is the Citgo sign that stands above Kenmore Square. However, this too is fading into a mist. As I start to work on the painting, I build up a large body of color, the gray color, and then I start to work into it while it's wet. This way I get a nice combination of a hard edge on the outside of the shape and softness on the inside. I'm speeding the painting up for convenience sake, but you'll be able to see the major steps along the way. If you're interested in a full-length version of this video, look at the description below and follow the link to my Gumroad page. Back to work, we're building up some of the major buildings in Kenmore Square using dry technique, mixing up the gray on my palette, and I'm using an older brush to kind of move across the building, leaving little gaps and holidays that form, in the end, they form sort of an architectural feeling of ledges and signage and windows. I work left to right, going higher as the painting approaches the left and addressing some of the darker areas. And all this is brought to bear on the tops of the cars. Here's where I'm going to stop the progress downward and start to refine the buildings, adding details, adding a bit of a graded wash to give the feeling that there's a mist in the air. So this graded wash contributes a lot to that feeling, the wash just above the cars. I continue on the right side with this building and I join it to some interesting signage. The signage that has some banners that describe a local event. We have traffic lights. We have lights overhead to illuminate the roads. All this is joined to that left side building and creates a nice framing of the main center of action, which are the vehicles that I'm placing now. Working on dry paper with a smaller brush, I can get some rendition of the cars and also the same idea of gaps and holidays, creating a sort of textural element. Well, the cars are in place. I've got a few different views of the cars and I can start to place these reflections working in a wet area. So we're getting some really interesting soft edges as a result of this application. I'm careful to leave a little space under the car. I find this really helps to set it off and complete this wet pavement look that I'm trying to achieve. If you notice the photograph, there's none of that. This is all based on memory and a sort of improvisation. But the gray day does inspire this. It's something I often do when I have a gray, flat day like this. I'll try to create the feel of a rainy day. That means creating these sorts of reflections. So I'm spending some time on the car, making sure that they look good enough. There's a number of cars at different distances, a bus turning the corner, all very active, and I want to preserve that wet into wet feel. Once I have them in place, I let this part dry, and I can start to look at it and think about some lights, some brighter parts, such as the tail lights, or a traffic light overhead, or the light of the front of the bus that's coming towards us. These are important touches. I'm using a small brush with some pure pigment. This is pigment it's watercolor pigment, but it's taken right out of the tube, and that's why it has the intensity that it has. It allows me to do some small things. I'm careful not to overuse this, to place too much of it. I'll place a couple of lights like this and reflect them into the pavement, and the illusion is somewhat completed this way when we add these final touches. I want to finish this painting by painting those letters, sit go, and I'm trying to do this in a artistic way also. That means respecting the sign. It also means trying to respect the painting. So I'm continuing with this dry technique and painting the edges in a sort of broken fashion. I feel this works well with the type of mood that I'm trying to convey. Nearly complete. Well, this is the finished piece. I hope you liked it. There's more videos of this sort of subject, rainy day paintings, in my library. I'll put a couple of them in the links that you see appearing on the screen. I hope you'll subscribe to my channel and visit me again soon. Thanks for staying for the end of the video.